All right, here we go. Not too late to do video. Um, I wasn't actually going to do a lot of 10, but then I kind of reread it and thought, let me go ahead and do some more of 10 so that you guys have it because it does wrap up Pliny's argument here. If we know from 9, he is justifying his, basic, communication to Trajan by saying, people are dying and it's spreading. And remember, there are a lot of false accusations going around. There's a lot of chaos going around. And we're about to learn another reason people hated the Christians. Okay. There is some concern that the people who are Roman and polytheistic are very concerned that the Christians, because they won't worship the Roman gods, are going to piss off the Roman gods, and the Roman gods are going to rain holy terror down upon the Romans. Um, because keep in mind, while we may not believe in the Roman gods today, they certainly did then. And yes, they really did believe in them. So that's a problem. And we're also going to find out that there's a problem of as I said before, the sacrificial meat, which was, something used. The Romans sacrificed animals to the gods. But the Christians wouldn't buy that meat because it was sacrilegious. It was like paying attention to a non-Christian belief. And so that was causing them to lose money. Like the meat sellers were losing money. So they had a problem with the Christians because it was financial. Actually, it was interesting. Apparently, about 100 years earlier, was it in Delphi? Or one of the Greek islands, Paul was preaching that you shouldn't buy silver figurines of the gods because those are idols, they're false idols. And so all these silversmiths started to lose massive quantities of money because, of course, Artemis, the moon goddess, who is silver, would be depicted in silver, and people would stop buying their figurines. And so they went to the government to complain about these Christians who told them, don't buy these gods. So it's interesting just all the different levels and ways in which people were upset with the Christians, none of which really had to do with the worship of Christ, okay, and everything to do with financial or possible repercussions from other gods. So what is he saying here? He is saying certainly satus constis. Certainly it is understood enough or it is known enough. All right, so certainly it is understood enough. Okay. uh to be. Okay, you got these. When you start with, you have double infinitives like that. Start with the one furthest away. To be celebrated, or I'm sorry, actually, in this case, you want to start here. To have begun to be celebrated near now deserted temples. Normally, you'd reverse that. To have, but coepe say typically takes an infinitive, so that can actually help you out. To have begun to be celebrated near now deserted temples. Okay. So these old temples, these ones forgotten by some of the old Roman gods, are being repurposed and they're being changed to Christian temples, which also worried the Romans because, if you take one god's temple and you turn it into another god's temple, the first god's going to get mad at you, right? So it's just something to keep in mind. Okay. And the sacred things, like the sacred solemn things, I'm trying to think there's a better way to say that. Solemn. I don't even know how to spell that. Hold on. The sacred. Hold on. How do I spell that? All right. That took 2 Google searches and a dictionary entry. That's ridiculous. Okay. Solemn. Who spells it like that? Okay. So the sacred solemn things. Whoops. My bad. Hold on. For a long time, intermissi having been um, neglected, are being sought again. Okay, are being sought again. All right, so he's suggesting here again that the temples, which were abandoned, are being sought again. And we have this possum. Okay, the quay goes before it. And possum is just an adverb. Everywhere everywhere. The carnum means meat. Notice how it's in brackets. And the reason that you have those little, I guess, chevrons on either side are because it's not in most texts. Remember, we've talked about that, about the problems with these texts, the fact that we only have a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. It's like telephone. Sometimes these are in, sometimes they aren't. I guess in many instances, carnum isn't in there, but it certainly fits. That's what he's talking about, where the meat of victimare, of sacrificial animals, sacrificial animals. Okay. When you is like, you almost need to say is being sold. Okay. Look, it's just to sell. Oh, whoops, to sell. Sorry. Um, this is where it gets confusing. Okay. And this is the part that is kind of a bit dodgy. Quius. Okay. Whose still very rare buyer is being found or was being found. All right. So the quius actually is going back to the carnum. All right. The buyer of which, the very rare buyer quius of which still in Winea Bator is being found. So again, we're going back into this. Christians wouldn't buy this meat. And so these sellers had this meat that was going bad. They didn't have refrigeration. They didn't freeze it. It just, if you didn't buy it, they lost money. Okay. So the very rare buyer of which is still being found. Okay, so again, he's saying that, which is weird, but the Romans often did things in double negatives. They didn't just say, we can't find buyers for this. They would say, the rare buyer is still being found. It's such a passive way of saying things. The Romans were very passive, and sometimes, I find myself speaking in the passive more when I've been translating a lot of Latin. Listen to me, I sound like my husband. All right. Ex quo, from which. Okay, hopefully you guys recognize this. Look at the quo here at the beginning of a sentence. Even though there's an X in front of it, that's because it's ablative. So that's still a connecting relative, right? From which, i.e., okay, all of these things that he's talking about. So everything that he's talking about, it is easy. It is easy. Opinare to be, I don't say opinionated. From which it is easy to, oh gosh, be judged that the crowd of men of that, let's do it this way, this crowd of men, emendare, possit, is able to be corrected. All right. Excuse me. So Pliny is going in. That's why we have this sort of like, it's almost like a if-then conditional clause here, basically. We've got all these buried clauses, which is why possit is in the subjunctive here. And when he means corrected, he means brought out of this whole craziness. Remember how he described Christianity as a contagion. Okay. If, okay, see, sit. If it, okay, if it is, like almost from a place of penitentia, like penance, but better than penance, correction. So Pliny is basically at the end here saying, all right, look, we're having problems. I've listed off a bunch of the problems. Part of the problems are now the people that are making money can't make money. So we're having political problems, we're having religious problems, we're having money problems. And again, remember, all of this wraps around all these other things and not necessarily the worship of Christ. So keep in mind that when the early Romans, or when the Romans were persecuting these early Christians, why they were upset with the Christians, which is a very complex thing. It's not just about the religion. It's about all these other aspects of the religion as well. And of course, money, because, it comes down to money. All right. So I finished this. You guys, we are going over the, the essay questions and hopefully get through the next section of the letter, which is actually the Trajan's response to the letter. It's very short. Okay. So you can see it's just two sections right here, and it's very brief. So Pliny wrote this huge letter. Trajan wrote a 2-word response, and that's what we're going to do on Monday. Anything we don't do on Monday, we're going to do on Wednesday, right? Because we're off school Tuesday. No, I lied, Thursday. So anything we don't do on Monday, we're going to do on Thursday because you guys have a test on the 29th. All right. All of that's put in the Schoology thing. So, all right. Ask me questions if you have any.